Oh man, what's going on, guys? All out war, or what's happening? What's up, everybody? Welcome. Crazy news. What's up, man? What's up? So, massive breaking news. Okay, they're saying multiple missiles have been seen in the skies of Qatar following Iran's strike of 6 missiles aimed at the U.S. bases. Crazy. Let's take a look at this. Take a look right here. There's a little clip right there. Reportedly launched missiles at there's U.S. bases in Qatar. So there's a shelter in place going on. I have a bunch of stuff pulled up that I'm gonna need to get out. It's gonna take me a while to get on the screen too. I was not ready, man. I was kind of sleeping in. I was working on things. But I saw this popping off and I figured, hey, we got to get on, man. Check this out.
Loved ones in Qatar. It's probably a 45-minute to an hour drive from Doha out to the airbase. So context really matters here on what was who is vulnerable to these strikes going forward. So for anybody in the region, I say right now, look for those other strikes to come in. And I think we're all going to be watching on who or what could be targeted next. And we have to be in high alert for the next few days at a minimum.
We got to get into what Trump told Putin,
Seth,
too.
stay with me. Let's take it over to the White House. Our Rachel Scott is there. Earlier, maybe about 20 minutes ago, Rachel, I received word from a senior White House official that Hegseth and Kane were both in the Situation Room with the president. Do we know if things have calmed down, if things have split up, they've moved out of the Situation Room? Are they remaining in the Situation Room? The same source telling me they're concerned about other attacks on behalf of Iran, possibly targeting other U.S. assets in the region.
Yeah, Kieran, what was so notable about your reporting that you got was that this meeting was originally scheduled at 1:30 in the Oval Office. And so when you told us that you were hearing from your sources and from administration officials that this has now been brought into the Situation Room, it shows you just the severity and the weight of this moment. The president now, I am told at least, is still inside the Situation Room with his advisors, with his national security team, mulling over the options of how the United States is or is not going to respond to this. We have heard from the president over the last few days. We've talked about this. He's been very forceful in his warnings about retaliation from Iran, saying that any retaliation from Iran, any future attacks would be far greater and a lot easier from the United States. Those are the words from the president. He's also floated this idea of possible regime change. I talked to the White House press secretary about that earlier today. She told me that's not something from the U.S. military's posture or position, that their posture remains the same. But they say that if there is no diplomatic option and that Iran is not willing to come to the table, then it's up to the Iranians to rise up. So here's what we know at this hour. We know that the president, the administration, they were on high alert, not only here in the United States, but also our troops abroad, including the Middle East. And we know the president still, as we know as of this hour, still meeting with his national security team as they try to figure out the next steps. One thing I will say here, Kira, as we talk about the political impact of this, the president did campaign on two things: on Iran not having a nuclear weapon, but also staying out of these foreign conflicts. And so what he decided.
So there's a mass fallout, man. A mass fallout happening, going on. Iran says it's fired missiles at U.S. military bases in Qatar and Iraq. I want to check out the live updates. They're also saying that the airspace is closed. And I thought, I don't remember, I don't know if they closed it before the bombing. I think they closed it before the bombing. And then they're also saying that the United States subs went underwater. Some other big news. They're in the Situation Room. Trump. They're monitoring Iran's retaliation. U.S. fighter jets scrambled from Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. Big deal, big deal. Here's this clip too. I wanted to play this. And we're going to get to Putin in a second, too.
Warnings focused on Qatar right now, where the U.S. has its largest air base in the Middle East. Concerns that Iran will fire short or medium-range cruise and ballistic missiles or swarming drones at the U.S. base at Al Udeid. Satellite images show that the U.S. moved most of their unhangared aircraft out of Al Udeid last week. But still, this could be a tempting target for Iranian retaliation. Embassies across Doha, the capital, have ordered their workers and their employees evacuated, and for those who remain to shelter in place, the threat appears to be imminent. From a technical standpoint, the military part of this operation on Saturday went flawlessly. 7 B-2 bombers took off from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri and traveled east, while another 2 traveled west over the Pacific, serving as a decoy. The B-2s can be seen on takeoff and landing, but were so stealth, the Iranian air defenses never saw them. 125 U.S. warplanes were involved in the strike, including F-22 and F-35 escorts, 75 precision-guided weapons fired by the U.S. at Iran's 3 nuclear sites.
The 4th and 5th generation aircraft pushed out in front of the strike package at high altitude and high speed, sweeping in front of the package for enemy fighters and surface-to-air missile threats.
The B-2s took off from Missouri at 12:01 a.m. Saturday morning. 18 hours later, 12 massive ordnance penetrator bunker buster bombs dropped by 6 B-2 bombers on the main enrichment site in Fordo. A 7th B-2 bomber dropped 2 30,000-pound bombs on the underground uranium enrichment site at Natanz. Lastly, 30 Tomahawk missiles fired from an Ohio-class submarine 400 miles away landed at Isfahan. It is much too early to say what the bomb damage assessment at Isfahan, with its hardened tunnels some 600 feet deep, really were. Current and former Pentagon officials think the program was likely set back by 1 to 2 years, but no one knows where the highly enriched uranium actually is. 900 pounds of it, enough for 9 nuclear bombs. It could have been moved or could be buried, we're told. There is little doubt that the U.S. will now face a retaliatory strike from Iran. After the U.S. military killed General Qasem Soleimani in 2020, it took Iran 10 days to fire ballistic missiles at U.S. bases in Iraq, but this time it may come a lot sooner. Kaylee?
Jen, quick question for you, because I'm reading reports about the airspace being closed above Al Udeid Air Base there. Was there any effort to disperse troops ahead of this moment? Because 10,000 U.S. troops is a highly concentrated number of U.S. troops in one place.
We don't have any details, but I can assure you that troops and embassy personnel have been dispersed, and the family members of those troops and embassy members were sent home in the last week. Also, we can report that many of those, we had satellite imagery showing that many of the planes that were at Al Udeid, the U.S. warplanes, they had been moved. You couldn't see them on the tarmac last week. But still a very tempting target, symbolically and otherwise, for the Iranians. And certainly closing the airspace over Qatar, it's clear that other embassies, as well as the Qatar itself, have.
Yes.
The next target.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Kara. I mean, think about 40,000 troops in this region. They were in place before the U.S. Launched that brazen attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. And the concern that U.S. officials in this building tell us is wanting to keep them safe, wanting to protect them from these Iranian missiles. We don't have good visibility on exactly what kind of, stash the Iranians have with these short-range and medium-range ballistic missiles. U.S. officials tell us they have some idea, but they certainly can bury a lot of their weapons, and they wanted to be prepared. So we knew that ahead of this attack that many of the military aircraft in Qatar had been moved to other bases, for example. We had heard nearly 30 of them had been moved. And then we heard as this attack unfolded, we heard it was short-range and medium-range missiles that were launched from Iran, that Patriot missiles were in play to defend this air base. And then, of course, the concern is the protection of troops in other countries, as you said, Iraq, Bahrain. There's, a lot of concern with that. But U.S. officials here tell us that they have been prepared for this, that the past few days leading up to this event, it's all been about arranging assets in a way that would protect these 40,000 troops in the region, Kira.
All right, and thank you so much. Let's take it now to General Robert Spalding, retired former B-2 bomber pilot. General, we were set to talk to you just about the B-2 bombers and the mission, the incredible stealth mission that they carried out over the skies of Iran over the weekend. But now we have this breaking news, so I just want to bring you into the fold. We will talk about the B-2 bombers and what happened during Midnight Hammer, Operation Midnight Hammer. But I guess if you look at all the preparation that we now know about, the fact that the Qatar Air Base had been cleared out weeks ago, that it appears the president was prepared for possible retaliation immediately. Hegseth, Kane were in the situation with eyes on Iran as these missiles were being launched into Qatar. The symbolism of the fact that CENTCOM is based there. My guess is you are not surprised that Iran chose this base for its first retaliatory strike. Now the question is, will there be other strikes, and will we continue to be prepared for those?
Well, I'm sure there will. First of all, my thoughts and prayers are with the troops that are in the region, and especially at Al Udeid. Really is a heartbeat of the Middle East in terms of our presence there and the use of air forces, and certainly have been supporting the Iran attack. They have been well prepared to receive this. They're well defended. It sounds like the Iranians actually coordinated this with the Qataris, meaning they were hopeful that nobody actually got hurt. I think that gives some room for nuance to the president in terms of how he might respond to this.
All right. Stay with us, General, because we are going to be talking again as we have continuing updates right here on ABC News Live throughout the day. I'm Kira Phillips. We have a lot more news right after the break. Don't go far.
Whenever, wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed.
Here in London, in Buffalo, Uvalde, Texas,
Edinburgh, Scotland.
from Poland once again tonight. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Ukrainian refugees here in Warsaw.
Do you think you'll ever be able to go back home?
We're heading to a small community outside of Mexico City. Splintered houses and splintered lives.
Okay, so let's get ready. I'm sorry about that, guys. Get the craziest calls. All right, so let's get up to date with everything that's going on. And I'm going to jump on screen here in a second. I'm going to get on screen. I'm going to be crazy. Let's see. No. All right. Trump, man. Trump. A lot going on. Missiles fired. Should Trump retaliate? You guys have a troll? It's too much going on. Who's the troll on Facebook? Oh, there we go. Okay, I got it. Bad. Fox News reports imminent threat of Iranian strikes on U.S. Qatar base. That was earlier, so they knew this attack was coming. High risk alert was put out to Homeland Security Advisory System. Severe risk of terrorist attack.
Iran. It's the largest U.S. military base in the Middle East. Iran dubbing the operation Annunciation of Victory. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kara Phillips. We should point out, though, reports from Qatar say no casualties, no damage. Live pictures now in Qatar as thousands of troops are still on high alert, though, after Iran makes its first response to President Trump with a swath of missiles targeting Udeid Air Base. Officials telling us all of missiles have been intercepted.
President vowed that the U.S. strikes against Iran would not go unanswered. That was coming earlier today. We neither initiated the war nor wanted it, but we will not leave the aggression against Iran unanswered, he wrote, according to a translation, saying we will stand by the security of this beloved nation with all our being and respond.
So we're going to war or what?
Wound on Iran's body with faith, wisdom, and determination. So just about 2 hours ago, we want to recap right here. There was news of an imminent attack on U.S. bases, possibly in the Middle East. And the news continued to really filter in. And then we were getting the reports there and seeing the images come in from the sky from Reuters and the Associated Press that was able to bring back the video pretty quickly. And we were seeing these interceptions take place over the skies of Qatar. And again, if you're just joining us here on Live Now from Fox, we are continuing to wait for more developments coming from the White House, waiting for a statement or even President Trump's post on Truth Social. We have seen him do that throughout the course right now over the last 48 hours, heavily giving updates when it comes to this conflict that has been going on in the Middle East. And we are giving you another live look right now at the White House, where the meeting right now in the Situation Room does continue. And we are bringing.
So they're still having this meeting in the Situation Room. This is a little map, too, of what it looks like, I guess. I'm going to take a look here.
Also saying no casualties.
No casualties. Al-Dhafra Air Base. It's right there. They got Qatar, Al-Dhafra Air Base, Iran. Okay.
Casualties in the attack on the U.S. military base either. So it would seem that maybe, and we hope fortunately, none of the missiles actually hit the ground. Also saying no.
So does the U.S. just leave it like this? I guess Trump's not going to just leave it. Maybe this is it. Or are they going to continue to attack? Maybe it doesn't need to send another message. Are we now pulled into a war? Is this going to be a never-ending back and forth tit for tat? New York, apparently, too, a little unrelated, but New York has this. Let me see if I can get all the tabs pulled up. There's a new candidate running that's apparently beating out Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo.
When he was just at that same U.S. air base in Qatar just last month, saying that if there are attempts at the lives of military personnel from America, that country will face a strong aggression and response from the United States. So we will wait to see what President Trump's response will be. We're waiting for just some more updates as we continue to get them. But again, just a very, very fluid situation that continues to play out in real time. Very, very fast-paced 36 hours, though, in the Middle East as these tensions continue to grow. And we have been watching really as the news breaks in real time and just waiting again for more updates. But I should also let you know that Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and other federal officials have held calls with multiple governors regarding the potential for attacks in the United States following strikes against Iran. The DHS said the calls were not in retaliation to any specific threat, but rather to encourage governors and law enforcement to be vigilant. Secretary Noem has hosted conference calls with governors nationwide as well as state and local law enforcement to ensure our partners at every level of government have the information they need to keep their communities safe. It is our duty to keep the nation safe and informed, especially during times of conflict, a DHS spokesperson told Fox News. The likelihood of violent extremists in the homeland independently mobilizing to violence in response to the conflict would likely increase.
Qatari, what's to say here? Qatari air defense missile falling on open area without causing significant damage. Damn, they're shooting duds. They're shooting blanks. Oh, hell no. Let me see. Leo said this. Hell no. Yeah. Oh, what that is in the background. Hello. Wow, no way. That shit just landed there? And this guy just keeps driving towards it? I would have just turned around. What if it blows up after? That's their missile strike? Oh, maybe that's it? That's the explosion? It's like a firecracker. Or like a big firecracker. Oh, man. That's what Iran is shooting? Oh, shit. Oh, wow. They're going to have to, I don't know, they're going to have to redefine those missiles. Uh-oh. Liberal missiles. Ugh.
The White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt rejected claims from Representative Thomas Massie and top Democrats in Congress that they were not contacted ahead of President Donald Trump's strikes in Iran. Leavitt told Fox News just today that the White House did make calls to bipartisan members of Congress ahead of the attack. First of all, we did make bipartisan calls. Thomas Massie and the Democrats, he should be a Democrat because he's more aligned with them than with the Republican Party. Were given notice. That was from Caroline Leavitt. So again, some infighting as well from the Republican Party as news here continues to come out of these strikes that have now been caused by Iran. And we're just waiting for more updates. I'm just looking at President Trump's Truth Social account just to see if anything came in. We have not seen that. Qatar says the Iranian missile attack on the U.S. base was successfully intercepted with no reports of casualties. That's another update. That is a good news right there. And we're just continuing to wait for some more updates here on Live Now from Fox, and we'll continue to bring that to you here all in real time. I do want to, though, bring in a double box. We do have the department, the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. She is speaking right now in a congressional hearing on the DOJ's budget. So let's bring that in. We'll also wait for more updates. And we'll listen to what she has to say for her opening statements. We'll see if she makes any comments on what is going on right now at the U.S. bases. So let's listen in right now to this hearing, and we'll bring you some other news here regarding President Trump, the White House Situation Room, and also the latest in the Iranian strikes.
As well as tracking down the cartels and criminals that shop these drugs to our nation's children. The Department of Justice must keep this at the top of their priority list. Unfortunately, Madam General, your job at the top will not be easy, and the list of issues that the American people are counting on you to address is long and dangerous. From fentanyl and immigration to violent crime and supporting local law enforcement, the Department of Justice needs to uphold the rule, law and equal justice, while tackling the most dangerous situations confronting Americans. To make matters even more difficult, this all must be accomplished within a budget that needs to be right-sized for efficiency and effectiveness. The Department of Justice's fiscal year 2026 budget request totals just under $34 billion. This represents a reduction of close to $3 billion from fiscal 25, and specifically the request includes about $11 billion to target violent crime, $10 billion to tackle drug crimes, over $3 billion to defend the nation and our citizens against transnational organizations.
Okay, well, listen, I'll put everybody to sleep. Planes divert around Qatar. I think Brian Enton said, too, he landed in Qatar. I have to double check that. I thought he said he landed and then they shut the airspace down. Kuwait Airways suspend flights. President Trump is willing to escalate United States military involvement if necessary, according to a senior White House official. He was scheduled to meet with national security officials for further discussions. Lord Almighty. I think the Iran didn't seem like they did anything. And maybe they just wanted to make it seem, because their side was trying to report that, oh, they took out a base or they did massive damage, which they didn't do any of that. What I'm seeing over Doha right now, Brian Enton's out there. Brian Enton, how are they going to send you out there, man?
What do you think that is?
Aliens.
Is that where the U.S. base is, in that direction? That direction?
No, close to an hour ago.
Maybe they're doing it to stop the counter, you know?
That's Brian Enton out there. Let's see what else he's doing. Like he hasn't really posted. Okay. Hopefully he's safe out there. Oh, this feed is frozen. I was gonna try to pull up these stream over here, but Sky News, no casualties reported.
We're reaping it today still, the rise of ISIS, so much else as well. So that is the longer term potential unintended consequence of what appears to be unfolding now, what appears to be the Israeli plan here to change the regime from within. You need to have something to replace what you remove.
Absolutely, Mark. Thank you so much. We will keep you there. We will be back with you a little later. But let's bring in our Cordelia Lynch, who joins me now from Tel Aviv. And Cordy, we have seen.
Okay, apparently Trump just put this out on Truth Social. He said the sites that we hit in Iran were totally destroyed and everyone knows it. Only the fake news would say anything different in order to try to demean as much as possible. And even they say they were pretty well destroyed. Working especially hard on this falsehood, Allison Cooper of fake news CNN, dumb Brian L. Roberts, chairman of Comcast, oh crap, Johnny Carl of ABC Fake News, and always the losers of, again, Comcast, NBC Fake News. It never ends with these sleazebags in the media, and that's why their ratings are at an all-time low. Zero credibility.
The windows, everything, the whole building felt like it was shaking. That's how severe some of these attacks are. The question is, for how long can the Iranian public and the Israeli public tolerate this?
Yes, Yalda, I think it's a central question, and there is really no indication yet of how far that patience will extend. I've been speaking to people here in Tel Aviv who on a daily basis have been playing out this ritual of going down to the bunkers when they hear those sirens, intermittent frequency, sometimes as much as 4 or 5 times a day, often in the middle of the night, then again in the morning. Yet they seem unfazed by it. It's something they anticipated. They've got used to that choreography. But you speak, Yalda, of this war of attrition. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, has already warned of the potential for a protracted war at very least. This Iran, he believes, in this conflict, it represents an existential threat. This is something he has had designs on for 3 decades. I think the notion of a quick exit from Israel is highly unlikely, and we are not seeing any kind of framework laid out for regime change, any sort of hint of what they plan to do beyond the strikes that they are still carrying out with regularity, the military and intelligence targets, the top generals too, really trying to destroy the senior leadership. But beyond that, what does the future of Iran look like in Benjamin Netanyahu's eyes? It is very unclear. Of course, we have seen in the war in Gaza a lot of criticism of his leadership and the inability to present a post-conflict plan. Well, Iran is highly complicated too, and we are not seeing that laid out. I think the distinction...
I think Iran's thing might have just been for them to not look weak, but not maybe they knew it wasn't going to hit. I don't know. You know, is the U.S. going to respond? There's a new guy taking over New York, man, and people are excited. People are excited. Qataris flee in panic after Iranian missile strike on U.S. base. Residents rushed to safe zones. Shoppers and civilians cleared out of the malls. Let's take a look at that real quick. Qataris.
Just leave.
That there were interceptions, that he might decide that this is not something he has to respond to. Because, of course, we still have some kind of diplomatic window left, however narrow that might be perceived to be. There is still a glimmer of an off-ramp here, and many people that want to see it exercised. The central issue, of course, is how much Israel is willing to accept that, because we currently have a leadership that is certainly pursuing this conflict with great enthusiasm and gusto, despite the threat it might pose for the people here. So far, the interceptions have been very effective. But look, what we don't know are the figures around the interceptors. That certainly Iran has been able to test the airspace here. There have been civilian targets hit, a lot of damage and destruction. You've seen shops and schools close. Ordinary life is suspended, if you like. How long can that go on before people start demanding answers and a greater conclusion? It feels too premature yet to talk about that. But when you hear people suggesting that American intervention hints that this might be over in a week, well, that seems perhaps a little premature, because there are so many different avenues this conflict could go down.
So many different ways. Putin. Let's see if I can find that Putin post. North Korea, Putin, China. Where's that Putin thing I saw this morning? It's one of the first things I saw this morning, and I was like, oh, that's not good. That's not good. Here.
that we hit, and he's referring to the nuclear sites that the United States struck in Iran, Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan, the nuclear sites of Iran. He said the sites that we hit in Iran were totally destroyed, and everyone knows it. And one of the reasons he's saying this is because so many people are questioning the battle damage assessment at this point in time, questioning whether the kind of damage that Donald Trump is indicating actually took place. He goes on to say only the fake news would say anything different in order to try and demean as much as possible. And even they say that they were pretty well destroyed. Working especially hard on this falsehood is Alison Cooper of Fake News. And you can read the rest of it because I'm told to go to our correspondent, Mark Stone, who has a bit of an update for us. Mark.
No update, but just reaction to that, which I think is extraordinary and I think is very, very interesting. It's telling. Donald Trump has been increasingly irritated by suggestions that perhaps the attack on Saturday night had not been as successful as he had initially claimed. Remember, he came out at 10 p.m. on Saturday night saying it was an overwhelming success, that Iran's nuclear capabilities had been completely obliterated. But then by the morning, his own staff, his top general, was saying it was far too early to tell what the battle damage assessment had been, and so he wasn't prepared to be drawn on the extent to which Iran's nuclear ability had been wiped out. And then even J.D. Vance, the vice president, was speaking to NBC yesterday and said that it would take quite some time to dismantle Iran's nuclear capability. So Donald Trump firing back at the fake news, firing his criticism at all of us indirectly, and individuals as well. Alice.
He said fake news to all of you. And by the way, if you didn't see this morning, this is one of the first things I saw earlier, a couple hours ago. I woke up to this and I was like, oh, Lord, I don't know about this, man. So apparently this is one of Trump's posts, and it says, did I hear former President Medvedev from Russia casually throwing around the N-bomb, or the N-word, nuclear, and saying that he and other countries would supply nuclear warheads in Iran? Did he really say that? Or is it just a figment of my imagination? If he did say that, and if he confirmed, please let me know immediately. The N-word should not be treated so casually. I guess that's why Putin's the boss. Also, it was a guy, okay, it was Medvedev. He's a former president. So it wasn't actually Putin that said it. By the way, if anyone thinks our hardware was great over the weekend, far and away from the strongest and best equipment we have, 20 years advanced over the pack, is our nuclear submarines. They're those submarines. I've seen a couple documentaries on submarines, the history on submarines, and the ones that disappeared into the ocean, nuclear subs. They are the most powerful and lethal weapons ever built, and just launched the 30 Tomahawks. All 30 hit their mark perfectly. So in addition to our great fighter pilots, thank you to the captain and the crew. I thought when I first read it, maybe because I first woke up, I thought Putin had said it, but I guess it was the former president of Russia. Kind of trolling, joking, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Juanita says, very dangerous for Medvedev to muddy the waters. What does Putin have to say? I don't know. I don't even want to know. Medvedev, Dmitry from Russia. Mother Russia.
French President Macron, he has issued a statement saying, I express France's solidarity with Qatar, which has been struck by Iran on its soil. I'm in close contact with the country's authorities and our partners in the region. I call on all parties to exercise the utmost restraint, de-escalate the situation, and return to the negotiating table. This spiral of chaos must end.
And the fact that, like, they were reporting before the missiles were even launched, the airstrikes, they were saying Iranian media reports that Iran is preparing to launch strikes. Why would they announce that too? You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, I don't know. Was it really an attack? I mean, they attacked, but I'm saying, was it like did they just want to show their strength kind of somewhat, but not really want to catch the repercussions? I mean, they're going to catch something maybe, but you know, was this really a full out strike from Iran?
which is why, for example, that they've been saying that they agree
we fired
with
14
Donald Trump
bunker busters,
that
so they
Iran
launched
needs
14
to stop
paper
developing
planes.
a nuclear weapon, but they are very, very cautious, and they want to, if at all possible, not get dragged into what they see as a conflict that is escalating. We have had some reaction to the attacks from the Defence Minister, Luke Pollard.
And this is just breaking now. They're saying BBC reporter says, I'm hearing from residents east and northeast of Tehran that they've heard explosions. What's that from?
RAF Typhoon jets announced by the Prime Minister have now arrived in the region to reinforce our posture, deter threats and reassure our partners.
Luke Pollard speaking with Air. Well, let's get a bit more analysis on where this all leaves the UK. We've got Sky's Deputy Political Editor, Sam Coates, with us. Sam, what do you make of how Keir Starmer and the Cabinet have been reacting?
So you can see them walking this tightrope. It's a tightrope that sees the Prime Minister and ministers back the ends. They agree with the US that Iran should not get nuclear weapons, but does not explicitly back the means, leaving open much conjecture that actually the UK private legal advice to the government is that this is not a legal conflict, and therefore the UK cannot join in and cannot allow its assets to be used, particularly Diego Garcia, as part of this military effort by the US. And so you have this sort of slightly weird messaging. When David Lammy appeared in the Commons earlier, he was at pains to say that the UK is not involved in this conflict. But at the same time, ministers do not want to look like they're going to be caught short-footed. So I just want to play you, first of all, a little bit of that Defence Minister Luke Pollard, who was talking a little bit later about what would happen if, for instance, UK interests were threatened.
And I want to be clear, we will not rule out sending further capabilities if they are required. And we will take all steps necessary to protect our people and our assets.
And I think the point of that is to sound like they are kind of on the front foot, but I'm not expecting the UK to actively participate in anything. In fact, you know, when messaging where the UK stands, the idea that Britain is not involved is quite high up, and we heard that time and again from David Lammy.
So too, Chrissy,
where the UK is heavily involved is trying to protect UK citizens, particularly those who are in Israel. You have some in Iran, for instance, who are very hard to find, but there is a big effort underway to start to evacuate initially the most vulnerable. Here's David Lammy.
I can confirm to the House that a Royal Air Force A400 has flown in to Tel Aviv and taken 63 British nationals and their dependents to Cyprus, from where they will be brought home this evening. Further flights will follow in the coming days, security allowing. There are just over 4,000 British nationals that have registered their interests following our appeal last week, and we would estimate that somewhere between 15 to 25% of them indicate, this is following the pattern in previous crises in Israel and in the region, take up the offer of British assistance to leave.
Let's discuss this a bit further.
I want to see this. A rare look inside the B-2 bomber. What does it look like inside? Okay, that's cool. Oh, I'm in the middle of the screen. Sorry.
Boy, there's not much room in here. You know, we have a lot of precious space in aircraft, and so we load it with the equipment to do the mission. There's not a lot of room for creature comfort.
I thought it looked like an alien ship inside or something. Bomber.
I look at it like this: the exiled crown prince feels comfortable enough to leave the US and go to Paris and talk smack to the IRGC, says something.
The Crown Prince. Reza Pahlavi feels bold enough to bow safely from the U.S. and to go sit in Paris. Political theater.
And that he may have devolved decision-making to the IRGC, to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. They certainly won't be passive. They're not pragmatic.
Okay, here's Brian Enton. He just posted live from, well, he was live, or he just posted a video from Qatar.
30 minutes or so, we left the airport, and that's when we started hearing bangs. This is some video that I took with my cell phone. We pulled over, got right out of the car, and you could see there were these bright lights in the sky, many of them coming away from the U.S. military base and flying over the Doha skyline, clearly like missile defense systems. But there were several that I saw going in the opposite direction towards the U.S. military base. Here right outside Doha in Qatar. So the Qatari government has confirmed that their missile defense systems stopped the attack from happening on the military base here, the American military base, the Iranian attack. It's still so fresh, though. We don't know for sure whether any of the missiles made it through. I didn't hear any sirens, but it was very, I immediately I was like, oh my gosh, it's almost like fireworks. I've never seen anything like this before. I've never like covered a war before, truthfully, but it was just these little specks in the sky, the missile defense systems, and then we saw a couple of them going towards the U.S. military base. So I'll keep you guys posted if anything else happens tonight. It's been quiet here for, I would say, the last like 15 minutes or so.
Okay, they got a, I know it's completely random, but they have a drag queen delivers the weather report on a local NBC affiliated news channel in Portland, Maine. Wow, okay. Let's check it out. One second. Okay, that's doing that thing. Hey, I guess. Let's see.
I am Charlotte Truth's Money, and today, as current temperatures right here, Saturday, it's
I mean, I don't know if she's really a drag queen. Like maybe that
2:40
person
p.m.,
is, yeah.
honey. It is 80 degrees here in Portland right now, honey, and we.
I don't want to assume, because some of these chicks. But yeah, no, I guess, yeah, there's the flag and stuff.
Are feeling the effects. The sun is out. All it took was a.
Some of these chicks look one way, and then when they take off the filter, you see them in person, something else.
Pride parade to bring the sunshine out today, but honey, it is hot all over the state. We got 78 degrees in Lewiston. I know the people of Lewiston, Auburn are probably celebrating and jumping in the river. Please don't do that. Be safe because it is hot, 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 but we need to find relief. Sanford's 81. Portsmouth down in New Hampshire is a lovely 83. Honey, the water is 56 degrees, okay? Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds so tropical, but you still got to be careful, okay? Hypothermia is real, so take it easy. 78 degrees in Waterville, 71 degrees in.
Hey, people got to work, man. People need to make money and whatever. All right. Let me see. I just thought that was interesting because I saw it kind of going viral on X. This is somebody else here. I'm currently in Doha, Qatar, and we just felt the whole city shake. Let's take a look at this. This guy's here in Qatar. Let's see what he had to say.
Yeah, so we just sat here. We're in Qatar at the moment. The airspace has been closed, and we've just literally felt everything shake. About 20 different impacts. The whole ground was shaking. Du'as, people who are pushing for World War III need to sort their heads out. It's not helping anybody. I'm telling you, I'm somebody who's been to war zones all over the world. Somalia, Yemen, Syria, Iraq. War is horrible and it's evil, and it's always the vulnerable, poor, weak people who have to pay the price of war. All those people out there who are itching for war, you need to stop it right now. Check your heads and pray for peace. Assalamu alaikum.
So they felt the whole city shake. Okay.
levels of confirmation that there was some coordination done, certainly between the Iranians and the Qataris. Remember, the Iranians and the Qataris are relatively close. Qataris has a pretty unique position in the sense that, and we've been talking about Qatar in the context of Hamas and Gaza. They talk to all sorts of different people on different sides. And there was, we understand, coordination between the Qataris and the Iranians before this attack took place. If the Americans weren't involved in that coordination, and what I'm being told is that they were, and we know that Steve Witkoff, the Middle East envoy for Trump, has been indirectly talking to the Iranians. Even if they weren't directly in contact, then of course the Qataris would have told them. So all the preparations were in place to be able to counter this Iranian attack, and that there on the screen is the counter attack. It is the Qatari and American missile defense systems over the night sky of Qatar, taking out those Iranian short and medium range missiles that could have caused significant damage. Combine that with the fact that the Americans moved all non-essential staff out of the area. They would have had maximum force protection in place to prevent any casualties. And maybe, just maybe, the Iranians would have fired the missiles at coordinates where they knew they wouldn't actually kill Americans, because all of this is about saving face from an Iranian perspective, in the knowledge that Donald Trump said at the weekend that effectively that he would fire a missile through the Supreme Leader's window if he did anything massive. He knew that, but they needed to save face. And so a coordinated response does just that. And to use the diplomatic language, it provides for an off-ramp. So maybe a line can be drawn under this.
Well, that's what I'm thinking too. Like, you guys think that maybe Trump, like, nobody was killed. I don't know if everybody got injured. I think they said no injuries too. They literally announced their attack. Like, okay, we're gonna do this. Supposedly, like, they were talking about it, that it was gonna happen before it happened. Everybody was on high alert. They shut down the airspace in Qatar. So, do we just leave it at that and walk away? Let them pat themselves. Good job. You did a good job, and just let it be. I feel like that's what happened. I don't know if it was Soleimani. I forget which attack it was. It might have been Trump. They did. We struck, killed somebody, and then they retaliated by like shooting at a base. And I mean, nobody was hurt or nobody was killed. And I think it just got left like that. And people back then were talking about World War III. I don't know if it was that one. So that's why I'm wondering if we just the same follow suit, just let it be. Okay, nobody was hurt. Let's just move on. Or you think it requires retaliation?
Very much indeed. We've been talking about the UK reaction to those strikes and the threat that Iranian retaliation poses to the West as well. I spoke to the former National Security Advisor and former permanent representative to NATO, Lord Peter Ricketts. I should say this interview was done in the last hour.
Man, they would have a shit show. The No King's Day protest over there. They call each other Lord, Sir, Lord. No King's Day. All right, let me check out. See any updates, what's going on. See if I can find any more videos from people out there. This is new. They said Qatar's Interior Ministry said the security situation in the country remains stable and there's no cause for concern following Iran's attack on the U.S. Air Base there. No cause for concern. Just a little something. Right. That was 2020. They responded, but it wasn't like anything really serious, and we just kind of moved on from there, it seems like, So I'm wondering if this is kind of like almost the same scenario. I hope that would be it. But like the reporter was saying, it's probably way too premature. And Israel, I think I had that somewhere too. Israel did another attack, I think. I'll have to scroll and see. And this was from like this morning that I saw it. Okay, they were claiming that Israel power station this person said Israel power station directly hit by Iranian missiles. Okay. Marjorie Taylor's not happy either. She said, I spent millions of my own money and traveled the entire country campaigning for President Trump and MAGA and his MAGA agenda and his promises. And Trump's MAGA agenda included these key promises: no more foreign wars, no more regime change, world peace. And this is what the people voted for. Only 6 months in, and we're back to foreign wars, regime change, and World War III. It feels like a complete bait and switch to please the neocons, warmongers, military-industrial complex contracts, and neocon TV personalities like MAGA hates, and who were never Trumpers. After the bombs were dropped, we were told complete success, and Iran's nuclear capabilities were totally wiped out. Then it quickly turned to Iran's nuclear facilities partially damaged. And now it's we don't know where the enriched uranium is. Let me be very clear. My children are 22, 25, and 27. I will literally fight anyone for their future. And their future and their entire generation's future must be free of America's last foreign wars that provoked terrorist attacks on our homeland, military drafts, and nuclear war. I'm fighting for them to have a future where they can afford to buy a home, afford insurance, invest for retirement, enjoy life, retain their God-given freedoms, afford to raise a family under the Christian faith, not be in debt, safety, and security, not to have our own taxpayer-funded government destroy it all. Contrary to the brainwashed Democrat boomers, to what they think and protest about, Trump is not a king. MAGA is not a cult. I can and do have my own opinion. Okay, so that was Marjorie. That was Marjorie Taylor Greene. You know, somebody that's been in support of Trump is very upset and disagrees. And that's what I've been saying the last couple of days, that there's this huge rift and divide happening. Sean here said, this is one long-winded virtual signal. I don't want war either, but we aren't engaged in war. I know you got elected after this, but we killed Soleimani and didn't result in war. I'd say calm down and don't hyperventilate. Also, millions of your money, you made millions in CrossFit, or did you get rich after getting elected? Oh, shit. Damn. I spent millions of my own money. Can someone explain to me, like I'm a child, how a CrossFit trainer turned politician had millions to spend campaigning for someone else? Was this money made in CrossFit, or was it when you became a representative, earning $174,000? Oh, yeah, where'd that money come from? Where's those millions coming from? Who's paying you? Oh, shit. No, nobody can be trusted. Who knows? Nobody's trusted, man. All the lobbying and everything that goes, everybody's paid for, bought for by all the companies, drugs, the pharmaceuticals. I don't know. I don't know. Who? They're saying everybody's bought and paid for, so I don't know anything anymore either, man. I don't know who's who anymore. So big divide happening.
For a nuclear program, they'll probably leave the non-proliferation treaty, lifting all international constraints on them. So we've got to avoid that, and therefore I think the British approach of saying we need to be thinking about the longer term here is right.
At the beginning of the interview, you said that you were surprised by Donald Trump's action against Iran. Just explain what you mean by that.
Well, Trump was elected as a man who ends wars and does deals. And here he is joining in another Middle East war, I think against the instincts of a lot of his own supporters. He's thrown the idea of a deal out of the window by doing this. He's been effectively maneuvered by Netanyahu into supporting Israeli military strikes on Iran. That's not what he was elected to do. And, you know, that's a complexity that is going to have to play out in America, especially if this goes on for several rounds. People will see America is being sucked into yet another entanglement in the Middle East. And that's everything that was against what Trump stood for. So
I understand that, like the worry, of course, you know, but at the same time, too, they've been screaming and shouting World War III forever. You know, almost as if these people are trying to manifest that shit. You know, you just keep saying something over and over and over, eventually becomes so. You create that. I remember years and years ago, the scare, it's kind of like, it's so desensitized to it too. You know, of course it's a real thing. This is a serious escalation, but this whole World War III thing, I mean, after a while, man, you just kind of like roll over and go back to bed. You know, but of course, I don't want war. No, that's scary. You know, you see what's happening in other places.
Images now, and we understand interceptors did what they needed to do, and those missiles were shot out of the sky. There have been no casualties whatsoever, but we understand Donald Trump is monitoring the situation from the Situation Room. Also, sources that I've been speaking to say this was a coordinated attack where all parties were aware before it took place that it was going to take place in order to minimize injuries and casualties. Let's speak now to Dr. H.A. Hellier, Senior Fellow in Geopolitics, International Security and Middle East Studies at the Royal United Services Institute. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program. So this is now Iran's response, a series of missiles being launched in what, from my understanding and from those sources that I've spoken to on all sides, this was coordinated and a pre-planned attack.
Well, thank you, Yelda, for having me on the program. I would say this is one of Iran's reprisals. I suspect that we will see a much longer frame in terms of how Tehran responds to the attacks of the weekend. In the same way that you saw after the killing of Qasem Soleimani, an initial reprisal for, the cameras, as it were, theatrical, as what you saw today. But I think that there'll be a longer reprisal that takes place over the coming months and years. The question is whether or not the United States will respond to this particular reprisal, this particular attack. All the reports I've seen thus far indicate that no, they won't, that they also see it as theatrical and does not require a response. I hope that is the case, because the spiral of violence and destruction only leads to more violence and destruction.
Yeah, I don't think
There's
they
no
need to
such thing
respond
as
to this particular attack.
Through escalation. It's an incredibly dangerous game that is being played here, and I hope that we see movement towards the end of this really absurd situation.
Yeah, and from what it appears that this account with the United States and Iran may have closed. We're yet to see how that unfolds. What I guess is more disturbing is if this situation turns into a war of attrition between Israel and Iran, which could then further inflame the region.
Iran is using duds to either test the airspace or waste the missile defense systems the U.S. and other countries in the area have to stop the bombs. When they are ready, they will send in bombs with real damage capabilities.
You're just sending duds, testing out the airspace, the capabilities, see what they're working with for the real attack. Could be.
Is the most destabilizing factor. They would have been very concerned about it. They would have been urging for cooperation against Iran and so on. Today, that's a very different calculus. And even in the Gulf, despite the continued cynicism and suspicion around the Iranian regime, for very good reasons, because of the track record that the Iranian regime has in the region, overwhelmingly the feeling is that the main source of instability in the region is Israel. The war on Gaza over the past 20 months, the invasion, occupation of Lebanese and Syrian territory, and now the quote-unquote blowing up of the negotiations between the Iranians and the Americans and strikes on Iran. So I think that that's a very important frame to keep in mind. And it also begs the question how the region is going to respond over the course of the coming weeks and months, given that they were hoping that the Americans would come in to put a check on Israeli actions in the region.
And they
Instead,
did the opposite.
they've gone and empowered the Israelis, have joined in on the attack. Yes, a single strike, but a massive one. And the There's a sense that there's a culture of impunity in this regard, and it doesn't build trust for stability in the region at all.
You know, what I think is also interesting is just a month ago, Donald Trump traveled to the Gulf states and talked about how aspirational it is for the rest of the region to be like these states. Now, of course, we know that Qatar has good ties, not just with the United States, but with Iran and its leadership as well, and has
running out of ammo. You think so?
Points
They could
in time been almost like a go-between. Certainly when Donald Trump was concerned about these assassins.
I want to see what JLP had to say. I want to listen to it. Let me see here. JLP.
Said that, and I've said this for a long time, this is not new, that America should not put blacks in charge of their country, in their government, police department, in their Congress and mayors and city council, because blacks cannot run anything. And the proof is in the pudding. Now, the proof is so in the pudding, you can take the pudding out and just leave the proof. You have allowed these people to get into government, Congress, so-called senators, mayors, police chiefs, district attorneys and everything. And look what destruction they'll bring up on America. They don't stand for anything that's good. Anything that's bad that's happening to America, look around, you see blacks leading the way. And if they're not leading their way in a certain situation, they're right there with it. Because it's not in their nature to lead and to add to it to make it better or to create a good situation for all people. It's just not in them. Look what the fallen Messiah and Big Mama Michelle did, Obama. Look what they did to America. They made it worse, and it's only gotten
I think a lot of people are just misguided.
worse. You have this black female, insane female, by the name of Jasmine Cricket, and she's supposed to be a representative, so-called, of the Democratic Party. There's nothing but nasty, evil destruction in this black female, and you allow her to get into your government. White people, when I say you, white American, who found it, discovered. Now they can stay in position of so-called power. South Africa, you can't go to Europe, and you won't be able to stay in America. Report from Fox News.
I just want to know his thoughts on the whole thing.
That any American still supporting President Donald Trump is sick, and that there is a mental health crisis in America.
Mental health. Everybody's mentally ill.
You have a president that is openly just a criminal, like not just the convictions he's got, consistently breaking laws, ignoring court orders, violating the Constitution, and doing it all because he really is seeking this retribution that he campaigned on. He said, I will be your retribution. And so this idea that we don't care how many people get hurt, we don't care how we prostitute our service members, thinking that you have your own special little army that's for you. I mean, it is sick. It is really sick. And anybody that supports it is also sick.
And this is what you voted in.
Crockett.
Over and over again.
He just went on a rant. I thought it was going to be...
And release illegal in May, I believe. In May. I heard that before.
I'm trying to see where he talks about Iran over there. I mean, I guess he's trying to talk about leadership. But...
Around the world, I raised a flag ceremony in honor of Juneteenth.
Somebody says this guy painted black or something. Jesse. Okay, well, the video is titled "A U.S. Attacks on Iran." I thought it was going to, or Iran. I thought it was going to be about that, but it doesn't seem like it. On the topic, though, I guess There is I want to show this if we have a moment. I don't want to spend too much time. But for the New Yorkers, because we do have a portion of the audience that's from New York. For the New Yorkers, because remember, Kamala Harris, they're saying that supposedly she's going to run for California governor. So New Yorkers, you have something amazing to look forward to as well. I mean, I don't know this guy. I don't know his policies, but it says former rapper and socialist New York mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani has pulled ahead of Andrew Cuomo. I mean, Andrew Cuomo has kind of a history too, so this guy's pulling up. Mamdani, 33 years old, has pulled ahead of Cuomo in a new Emerson poll, leading him 52% to 48%. He's accused of voicing his love for leaders of nonprofit convicted of funneling $12 million to Hamas. Amazing. This is him saying he loves, that his own words, he loves the Holy Land of Five who are convicted funders of Hamas, allegedly. It's disgusting and despicable, Cuomo said, reacting to one of his songs. He got a music video? Oh, shoot. New York. You guys, I wish I still lived in New York. I miss New York so much. Hey, yeah, let's go. New York, here we go. Congrats. So there's the new person. I don't know his policies. Maybe he's going to bring about positivity. So apparently there's another clip of him here saying he thinks NYPD should be removed from specifically from high crime areas. So that's going to help out the crime here. Let's see. Let's take a look.
So are you, do you think that we have to almost do without policing in certain areas, which are labeled to be high crimes, to have alternative bodies, the policing in a more compassionate, more merciful, more social, assisting and helping more than arresting and putting in jail?
I absolutely think that what we need to do is give support and funding to institutions that are trained to deal with these kinds of issues. Mm-hmm. As you said, if you're having an argument with someone and there's a risk of it escalating, who is better positioned to de-escalate it? Someone who is well known in the community, or someone who has been trained specifically in de-escalation, or a stranger who has a gun? And we see so many situations where encounters with police, the police arrive and all of a sudden the tension rises even astronomically to what it was prior. Right. And I think that we need to say and ask ourselves, look at how policing is done in the suburbs, in wealthier, whiter America. When people make mistakes, the answer is not to throw them in jail. No. The answer is not to, put them in a cage and throw away the key. The answer is to try and find a non-carceral solution. Absolutely. Community service, something where, they learn from their mistakes. There's a sense of accountability and growth, all these kinds of things.
So send in the social workers. All right, get no more cops in the crime areas. Let people go. Don't arrest people. Hold them accountable. But he's taking over. People seem to like him. So, New Yorkers seem to like him. This is another plan that he plans on implementing supposedly in New York. It's kind of interesting. So basically the government taking over the grocery stores. Check it out.
Grocery prices are out of control. The cost of eggs and milk
and that it is
has skyrocketed. Some stores are even using dynamic pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day depending on what they can get away with.
That dynamic pricing is wild. I didn't know they did that. I mean, I know they probably do it from day to day, but I didn't think throughout the day. That's crazy.
Cost over the course of a day, depending on what they can get away with. It doesn't need to be this way. I'm Zohran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option for produce. We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging. These stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent, and will pass on those savings to you. Grocery prices are out of.
That's one of the plans too. He wants to spend $65 million on trans medical treatment, including for minors. So that's what you guys have coming to New York. You guys keep. At a certain point, people keep voting for it. Who am I to say anything? I'm missing something or whatever. So you guys, New Yorkers, you guys keep doing you. California, I love California, my big audience, but I know a lot of people that don't necessarily support all this stuff. But keep rolling this stuff in. Okay, 65 million, I guess, including for minors if elected as mayor. That might be the state people want to move to. I don't know. So he's getting popular. Cuomo, man. Cuomo's losing, I guess. He's going to have to pick it up. I think it's because of Cuomo's history and COVID and all that. Maybe people are not too happy with Cuomo. They need somebody else. Somebody else contending. Besides this guy. Wow. So I'm going to look up updates, but what is this? What's going on here? What is this? They're about to... Oh, this has been live for a while. Excuse me. It looks like they're going to do something here at the Senate House. Or did they finish?
Present itself before the United States Congress and make the case to the American people as to why this extraordinary step has been taken.
Okay, I don't know if they finish or not. Maybe it looks like they're done. Also, something else going on here, too. Minneapolis PD on ordinance preventing officers from assisting ICE raids. Okay. Maybe I have something coming, okay?
Welcome to Jerusalem. I'm Yalda Hakim, and to our continuous coverage after Iran launched missiles at a U.S. military base in Qatar. The attack comes after the U.S. struck Iran's main nuclear sites over the weekend. Iranian state TV described tonight's operation as a mighty and successful response to America's aggression. But sources say the U.S. was notified of the plans through back channels, and Iran coordinated the strike with Qatar. Doha says the missiles were intercepted and there were no casualties. Well, Iran's armed forces said they targeted the Al Udeid base in Qatar, with Tehran describing it as a devastating and powerful missile attack. Well, as we've been reporting, there are no casualties, no injuries following those airstrikes, those missile strikes. But let's just show you the scenes of those missiles raining over the skies of the Qatari capital, Doha. If we can just get that back up on our screens and show you what the people of Qatar were looking at over their skies. Now, Qatar is one of the safest places on the planet. It does have a number of US bases there. Qatar also has very good relations with Iran, so no surprises. I
wanted to show this video that everybody's showing. The Pentagon has released footage of 7 B-2 bombers armed with bunker busters striking Iran's nuclear facilities. Let's take a look at this. So Qatar gave the warning. They, shot into Qatar to get the U.S. base to try to. In the air. Damn. Smooth. Yeah. It just landed.
We just put up a missile defense system across a rooftop from our White House in D.C.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I did not know that. Interesting. Thank you for the 10. Let me look that up. Ooh.
In this conflict, that he struck Fordo, that he was part of that critical effort in dismantling Iran's nuclear program, and he doesn't want to get involved in the sort of messy entanglement of another nation's war. It is really Israel's war to fight, and we.
Well, they're saying ANTWQ-1 Avenger air defense system spotted on the roof of the new executive office building right across from the White House. The Avenger packs Stinger missiles and a 50 cal machine guns, typically mounted for Humvees. But this one's in a fixed emplacement. Protects against aerial threats, short-range drones, or slow-moving aircraft. Interesting.
Strike Israel. It is possible that that tit for tat continues. It is also, of course, plausible that they might meet some kind of temporary ceasefire, that every party feels that this moment is an opportunity to save face, to walk away, to take the diplomatic off-ramp. But there's a lot of, possibilities there, and absolutely no certainty, and a great deal of jeopardy.
Indeed, very much so. And Cordy, I just want to bring in a couple more lines that have come into us. One of those from the Reuters news agency, they say Iran will continue its retaliation in response to US attacks. That's based on what a senior Iranian official has told Reuters. And the senior Iranian official also went on to say Iran has the necessary rationality to begin diplomacy after punishing the aggressor. If they seek negotiations, Israeli and US attacks must stop. And Cordy, the Israelis have said they can pretty much wrap this up quite quickly once they finish their operation soon. But what is of grave concern at the moment is that this could turn into a sort of a tit-for-tat war of attrition, which again could put this region on high alert.
You're absolutely right, Yalda. They speak optimistically of bringing this to a conclusion, that they're making great steps towards their central goal of dismantling Iran's nuclear program and its ballistic missiles too. But certainly what we've seen play out on the ground here is day-to-day exchanges between the two sides with no real let up. And so we will have to wait and see if there is any kind of indication from Benjamin Netanyahu that he is committed to a conclusion, to some kind of ceasefire. And if a ceasefire is possible, how long that might extend to. There is a chance that there's some kind of agreement, everybody downs tools, downs arms.
All right. What? Diddy defense may invoke Iran conflict in closing argument? How the hell? How is that even possible? TMZ. Diddy's defense, hey feds, Iran's the real threat. Stay out of his bedroom. I don't understand that. Iran may be the key Diddy's defense in his sex trafficking trial because we're told his defense may use the growing conflict in the Middle East as a way to take a shot at the federal case against him. One source tells us Diddy's defense may invoke the recent conflict with Iran later this week in their closing argument. We're told the possible defense goes like this. This was a manufactured case out of a bedroom, police instigated by Homeland Security investigators, and rather than worrying about what Diddy is doing with baby oil and lube, HSI should worry more about the escalating conflict in Iran. Our sources also tell us Diddy's defense feels like they don't need to do anything but rest their case Tuesday after the prosecution rests their case because the defense believes prosecutors haven't met their burden. Okay, that's it. They're just trying to sneak anything in there to try to get an Iran title, I guess. How are they going to bring up Iran doing this shit? Nice try, Diddy. Can't do that. 2 minutes ago, supposedly Iran signals it is now ready to negotiate. We're rational enough to start a diplomatic process after punishing the aggressor. Where did he get this from? I don't know. Where are they getting this from? Hold on. This was tweeted out, but it's we have shown them who's boss. Now we can talk. Let's see. It came from this account. There's 2 accounts. There's one account that I follow for alerts that's pretty on point, but where did they get that information from? Let me try this account. Let's see. OS Client Defender. Let's see if they said something. President Trump continues to seek out diplomatic resolution. I don't know where he got that from. We'll give the U.S. a break. They just said they weren't going to stop. It's the beginning. I don't know what's going on. That's weird.
Absolutely massive blow. There's been a huge damage to so much of its infrastructure there, but that doesn't prevent it from developing more in the future. We've also had a lot of discussion over the last few days about where the enriched uranium was taken to.
There's been all that talk, the uranium. People were trying to say the base wasn't hit, but it from what I've seen, all the accounts that I've seen, the news article, everything that I've read, it's been hit. But there was a question about this enriched uranium. Was it taken? Where did it go if it was? And then I guess there's maybe been some talks about the effectiveness of the hit. So I guess that's why Trump posted that post on Truth Social. Netanyahu. All right, guys. I guess I'm going to get off for now. If anything happens, I definitely will jump on. Did I miss something? Okay, no. Yeah, if anything happens, I'll definitely jump on. I was up really late, like messing around with the website. I honestly made the website worse. They say, don't, if it ain't broke, don't fix it or don't touch it. I kind of messed it up, so I've been kind of tweaking it. So I'm going to try to rest a little bit. But, and then maybe work on it later. But I'll definitely be around if something pops off. It's kind of crazy. Things are escalating. Stay safe. Sleeper cells they're talking about. Stay safe. I don't know. Hopefully they'll negotiate this and we can get some peace. All right. Love you guys. Bye. Bloop, 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 bloop. Take care. See ya. Bloop, 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 bloop.